Hey there, everyone. Today I kind of want to dive into the biological parts of the brain that are responding to meditation. Within the last 5 years, there's been an upsurgence of interest in, why parts of the brain are lighting up when put under an MRI, and, why people who meditate seem to report these side effects. I feel less anxious. I feel less like, treating that person over there who I think is different like crap. And so we talk a lot about meditation and the side effects and all that. But what I really wanted to hit today, and I know you've heard people extol the virtues of meditation, and you may be skeptical, and rightfully so. I say that, never take something as a truth without going and investigating first. So this is my gift to you. Listen to this, check it out, and go investigate. That's really cool. So how can sitting every day for 15-30 minutes, I just finished a 2-hour sit, that was fun. How can it make a difference in our approach to life? Think about that. Our approach, how we're going to go about things. How can it take how you personally take things and how you interact with others? Now, my short answer is it enhances compassion and allows you to see things more clearly. Okay, great. That's what I said. That's armchair psychology. Let's get into why. For those of you who are curious as to how meditation changes the brain, there are several parts of the brain that I'm going to go through and mention, and we're going to talk about each of these parts and the connection to those other parts. A lot of what we're talking about is neoplasticity. So if this gets a little high bar, if I'm saying things you don't understand, please feel free to leave me a comment, and you know what, I will get back to you and we will discuss it in different detail, in different words. Like, my goal is not to be, the type of intellectual who, says, well, you don't know that, well, bah. I want to be the type of educated person where it goes, hey, you don't know that? Let's learn it together. So, starting out, the first thing and foremost, the lateral prefrontal cortex. And you're going to have to give me kind of a break here. I haven't said some of these words since college. So that is the part of the brain that allows you to look at things from a more rational, logical, and balanced perspective. That's the neocortex. That's the new brain, not monkey midbrain, not lower reptile brain. That's neocortex. That's a very new part of the brain, which is very, very exciting, I think. We know it as the assessment center. Think of it like bureaucracy. All the requests come in through, the prefrontal cortex. Hey, can I punch that guy in the face? Prefrontal cortex says, no. Could you please just mellow out and go home? That sort of thing. It is involved in modulating emotional responses, and it must be said, emotional responses come from the fear center, which is the amygdala, which we will get to much, much later. And this center allows overriding automatic behaviors. So it automatically it can override the fight or flight response if you train it, if you let it. It decreases the brain's tendency to take things personally. So let's just talk about that for a second. If that were to occur in your brain, and it has been occurring as you meditate, as you get into this, what kind of person would you be? Isn't that interesting? Now, the second part is the medial prefrontal cortex, and this part gets a little tricky because it's got two separate parts to it. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that constantly references back to you and your perspective and your experiences and everything involving you. Everyone, or some people call it the me center, the I center, the ego center. This is where the Captain I lives. The brain, because it processes information related to you, including to when you are daydreaming, thinking about the future, reflecting about yourself, engaging in social interactions, and other people's, I said that incorrectly, inferring other people's state of mind and empathy. This is the self-referencing center. So while it is not perfect, there's a lot of stuff going on. So we can already see this, when you sit down to meditate, you see these sorts of things changing. Now, the medial prefrontal cortex has two sections. The first one being the ventromedial medial prefrontal cortex, which is a mouthful. Now, involved in processing information related to you, which is what the medial prefrontal cortex does, and that which is similar to you, this part of the brain can cause you to end up taking things personally, which is why it is referred to as, the unhelpful aspect of that self-referential sort of thing. In reality, the brain area has many important and helpful characteristics. It's not something we want to get rid of. It's the area where anxiety and depression comes from, because this is so self-referential to you, things that apply to you. Now, the second part, which is now I'm going to mess this up, I'm going to try to be very careful, the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex. Nailed it. And that's involved in processing information related to people that we perceive as being dissimilar from us. This is our tribe. Those people are different. That's what that part of the brain is involved in. It is a very important part of the brain, and nobody's saying get rid of it. It is the part of the brain involved feeling empathy, especially empathy for people who are not like us. Now, this is a very tricky area of the brain because, as you might imagine, by and large, people don't feel a whole lot of empathy for, the masses, especially things they perceive to be different. Different means dangerous. So, if in meditating, you can get these two parts to kind of mesh and go, we're really no different at all. And I mean, you guys who've been with me meditating for a while, you know what that feels like. And that's pretty cool. Like, my nerdgasm about neuroscience is almost at its peak. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the insula. That is the part of the brain that regulates and monitors body sensations. Now, how many times have you heard me say, notice what's going on in your body. Notice what the body sensations are. Are you angry? What does that feel like? Does it feel like a white, hot, burning anger? There's a reason that's a phrase. Those sensations exist within us, and it is involved in experiencing intuition and those gut level things that you know. The insula is responsible for that. Along with other, brain areas, it helps guide how strongly you will respond when you sense something in your body. Whether that's anger, whether that's whether that's jealousy, you think your boyfriend's cheating on you, whether that is just stuff occurring in the body. We've talked about this at length. Sensations that happen are not the true reality. They're just sensations happening on the body. Same that goes with mind and emotion. They're things that are happening in the body. You get a choice about how to respond, which is very cool. Now, finally on to my favorite part, the amygdala. The amygdala is located very low in the brain. Low, almost in the brainstem, and it is one of the oldest parts of the brain. It's located in a part that I call reptile brain. The amygdala is the alarm system of the brain. It's the fear center. It's what's let us know what we need to do if this is a fight or flight scenario. Now, by and large, unless you are in a combat situation, you're probably not experiencing a fight or flight situation. There are exceptions, and I'm sure I will get lots of comments about them, and we can talk about them. That's great. Part of the brain, this part of the brain is responsible for many of our emotional, responses and reactions. Now think about that. It's not just fight or flight. It's responsible for many of our emotional reactions. So the emotions and stuff that we feel that makes us so jazzed is not even happening in midbrain or frontal cortex. That's happening in old reptile brain. That's pretty interesting, I think. So as we meditate, we slowly recondition the neurotransmitters to connect to different parts. And the old pathways say, I feel jealous, now I'm angry because it's hit the amygdala. Those pathways begin to wither. And I think that's really cool. You're taking an active part in changing the way your brain is and the way you respond to things, and that changes the world. I really believe it does, which I think is pretty cool. And if you were looking, and again, I don't mean to imply correlation, causation. This is just some of the newest information out. And so if we were to look at people's brains before they began a meditation practice, you would likely see strong neural connections within the me center, between the me and the body sensation fear centers of the brain. That means that whenever you feel anxious or scared or have a sensation that passes your body, a tingling, a pain, a twitching, a clench, whatever, this is because that me center is processing the bulk of the information. And as a 21st century person, are those necessarily the best people to really be going for advice? Can't the neocortex perhaps, find its own way? Or better yet, can't you find your own neural connections, things you'd like to connect to so that you can live a happier, safer, and more in control life? You have a choice here, The over-reliance on the me center, on the thing that is the capital I, explains how that we are only... We get stuck in repeating loops throughout our life. Everyone who's listening to me knows what a loop is, knows that you have repeated the same thing over and over and over again, and God, just how could I get out? I'm going to tell you how you can get out. You're probably not going to listen, but that's all right. You'll have a video to reference to where I mentioned it. You can get out of the loop by doing something different. If you date a certain kind of guy over and over and over again and wonder why that's not good, step outside your comfort zone. Date somebody that's a little different. That's okay. Something else that might help, if your friends treat you poorly, and you notice that within the friend group they treat all of the members poorly, and you don't want that, step outside of that and find different friends. The neural pathways begin to readjust. I think that's pretty important. So, by contrast, if you meditate on a regular basis, what happens? Well, several positive things happen. First, the strong, tightly held connection between the me center, specifically the unhelpful body sensation regulator, begins to break down. That's kind of cool. And this connection withers. And you will no longer assume that a body sensation or a momentary feeling of fear means that something is wrong with you or that you are the problem. Now that is something I would like to say to all 21st century people. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not the problem. Your brain's just kind of acting wonky. Also your software, social programming, all that. But talking about meditation, stay on track. That's more to me than it is to you. This explains in part why anxiety decreases as you meditate. And this information is taken from several different sources. The idea that, how do you feel after having meditated? Oh, well, I feel calm. I feel less anxious. I feel more involved with my kids. Those are side effects of meditation. They're really nice, but they aren't the reason we meditate. They aren't the reason that we do this. So keep that in mind. We do this to create new neural pathways so that we can live a happier, more pleasant, less chaotic life, so that we can be in vague sense of control of why we're behaving the way that we do. I think that's really important. Second, a heftier connection is built between the assessment center and the body sensation fear centers. Now this is a big one. The assessment center is the logic center. The fear center is the amygdala. You don't want those two in collusion. You want them to be doing their individual jobs. So if a crocodile shows up, amygdala. If, a math test shows up, assessment center. It's okay. This means that when you experience a bodily sensation or something potentially dangerous or upsetting, you are able to look at it from a more rational perspective by creating those new connections, which I think is really exciting. This means you experience a bodily sensation or something potentially dangerous or upsetting, and you are able to look at it with a more rational perspective rather than that automatic, autonomic, reptile brain sort of thing, which I think is very helpful. For example, when you experience pain, everyone's experienced pain. Rather than becoming anxious and assuming it means something is wrong with you, you can watch the pain rise and fall and go on without becoming ensnared in a story of what it might mean. That's pretty cool, huh? And finally, and I'll leave you guys with this. An added bonus of meditating is that the connection between the helpful aspects of the me center, of the I, which is, for those of you who have forgotten, or like me, or who really like the words that I've been using, the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, the part involved in processing information related to people we perceive as being not like us. The part involved in processing information related to people we perceive that way, as the body sensation center, and that center is involved in governing empathy, becomes stronger. This healthy connection enhances our capacity to understand where another person is coming from. And I think that's damn near magic. I think that's incredible. I think that's something very stunning. The increased connection explains why meditation enhances empathy. It helps us see and use part of the brain that we weren't before, that infers other people's states of mind, that lets us step outside of ourselves and go, I wonder what that's like. Do you think I could help? And I think that's pretty righteous. It helps us see their motivations and their dreams and the idea that they have a mom waiting for them back home and all that. And that's very powerful to me. And the end result of this is that we are more able to put ourselves in another person's shoes, especially those not like us. And I think that's